To the night, I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through. It's true, baby, let the light shine through.
Hello and welcome to the semi-final highlights for round 4 of the Combe Karting Championship. It's been a brilliant day's racing so far, and we've got a very competitive first semi-final for you here. Semi-final 1 has Oliver Bayani on pole position, the winner of the last 2 rounds. He's joined by Ben Winter and Alex Kite, who are both in the top 10 of the championship, while Adam Vince starts 4th and Connor Botting returns to the championship after he finished 9th in last year's championship. Oliver Bayani got away very well, while Ben Winter was sluggish away from the line. Alex Kite made his way into 2nd place, while Adam Vince challenged Ben for 3rd, but Ben was just able to hold on around the outside. The leading 2 had a bit of a gap, while Connor Botting was challenging Vince for 4th place. Bayani had a little bit of a gap from Alex Kite, who again had a gap back to Ben Winter, while Connor Botting was able to make his way into 4th place ahead of Adam Vince. Out in front, Oliver Bayani pulled out quite a big gap, with Alex Kite being hunted down by Ben Winter, with Ben closing him down. Ben got right onto the tail of Alex Kite, and as they started the 4th lap, he was able to get the cut back on the exit of the first corner, went through the chicane side by side, and Ben Winter just about squeezed his way through to take 2nd place. Oliver Bayani was quite a long way ahead by this point, so 2nd was the best that Ben could do, and he just had to keep Alex Kite behind for the last few corners, which he was just about able to do, with Oliver Bayani coming through to take the victory, with Ben Winter 2nd, Alex Kite 3rd. Semi-final 2 has Zach Venn and James Arthur on the front row. James Convery and Jamie Higgins share the 2nd row, and Chris Bascott starts 5th. James Arthur and Zach Venn both got away well, with James Arthur challenging around the outside into the first corner. Zach Venn made a little bit of a mistake, which allowed James Convery through into the lead. Zach slotted into 2nd, but it delayed James Arthur and allowed Jamie Higgins up into 3rd place, with James Arthur in 4th. The leading 2 were able to open up a little bit of a gap back to Jamie Higgins, and Zach Venn was doing everything he could to try and find a way back past James Convery. A bit further down, James Arthur had a mechanical problem which caused him to retire, allowing Chris Bascott to get up into 4th place. The leading 2 carried on battling though, and Zach Venn dived up the inside of James Convery, just about got past, but James came straight back at him and got him back on the exit of the corner. Jamie Higgins tried to find a way past as well, but Zach held him off. As they entered the last lap, Zach Venn dived up the inside of James, managed to make it stick. James tried to get him past, but Zach covered him off, and Jamie Higgins dived up the inside into 2nd place. With only a couple of corners to go, Zach Venn took the win from Jamie Higgins, with James Convery 3rd. Semi-final number 3 had championship leader Dan Good on pole position, joined on the front row by James Paramore. Graham Palmer and Dave Leonard took up the 2nd row, with Adrian Lee completing the grid. It was James Paramore who got the best start, and he was able to squeeze his way into the lead ahead of Dan Good as they headed into the first corner. A bit further back, Graham Palmer was fending off Dave Leonard for 3rd place. The leading 2 had made a bit of a break, and Dan Good was doing everything he could to try and find a way back past James Paramore. He was trying a wider line, trying to get the cut back, but James was driving brilliantly, fending him off. Graham Palmer was still just about in touch, but too far back to make a move after he'd broken away from Dave Leonard. But these 2 carried on battling for the remainder of the race. Dan Good trying everything he could, giving James a little bit of a tap at the top corner, but James covered off the inside line, so they headed down to the last corner, with James just fending off Dan Good and Graham Palmer coming home 3rd. Jeremy Woodward lined up on pole position for semi-final number 4, with Marc Janes joining him on the front row. Hugh Hegarty and Theo John completed the 2nd row, with Tim Hegarty, Hugh's father, completing the grid. Jeremy Woodward and Marc Janes both got good starts, with Marc challenging around the outside of the first corner. Jeremy ran him out wide, which allowed Hugh Hegarty to get alongside him and squeeze his way past into the chicane. There was contact, and Marc Janes lost a lot of time, which dropped him back down to 4th, behind Theo John. This gave Jeremy Woodward a bit of a gap back to Hugh Hegarty, who himself had a gap back to Theo John. Hugh Hegarty was able to catch Jeremy Woodward though and challenge for the lead, but he wasn't quite close enough to make a move. As they entered the last lap, Hugh Hegarty was right behind Jeremy Woodward as they came up to lap Tim Hegarty. They went through the last few corners and Hugh Hegarty wasn't quite close enough to make a move, Jeremy Woodward covered the inside line through the last 2 corners and went on just to beat Hugh Hegarty to the win. Theo John came across the line to finish 3rd. Semi-final 5 had Thomas Cardno and Archie Cousins sharing the front row, with Tim Janes and his son Scott Janes completing the field. Thomas Cardno got away very well, but Archie Cousins was slow away, which allowed Tim Janes up the inside into the first corner to take 2nd place. This allowed Thomas Cardno to open up a big gap out in front, with Archie Cousins now trying to find a way back past Tim Janes to take 2nd place. And Tim was defending really well and stopping Archie from finding a way past, while Scott Janes was there ready to pounce if Archie made a mistake. Those two managed to break away a bit from Scott, and Archie was doing everything he could, but Tim just about covered the inside line, stopping Archie from getting through. Again, Archie was trying the wider line, trying to get the cut back, but Tim had it covered, and this was bringing Scott Janes back into play again. Out in front though, Thomas Cardno went on to take a very dominant victory over half a lap ahead of the battle for 2nd place between Archie Cousins and Tim Janes. The two of them were right together, and as they came out towards the end of the lap, Archie Cousins went up the inside. There wasn't quite enough of a gap, and that allowed Scott Janes around the outside, but he didn't quite make it stick, so Archie Cousins took 3rd. Semi-final number 6 had Michael Seaborn and Leigh Janes on the front row, with Ross Robertshaw and Isaac Smith completing the 2nd row. Michael Seaborn got away very well, and Leigh Janes slotted into 2nd place behind him. Isaac Smith tried around the outside of Ross Robertshaw, but wasn't able to make it stick. Mike Seaborn and Leigh Janes were able to open up a gap over the battle for 3rd, with Isaac Smith still trying hard to find a way past Ross Robertshaw. Leigh Janes and Seaborn were really close together, but Janes wasn't quite able to find a way past. Isaac Smith was able to get past and worked his way up into 3rd place. Leigh Janes and Seaborn carried on battling, and as they headed down towards the first corner, Seaborn and Janes were neck and neck, and Janes was able to get the cut back, and they headed into the chicane side by side. They went through the chicane side by side, but Seaborn just fended him off and opened up enough of a breathing space to relieve the pressure from Leigh Janes. Leigh Janes stayed with him but was never close enough to make another move, and Seaborn headed on to win the semi-final just ahead of Leigh Janes, while Isaac Smith held on to take 3rd place ahead of Ross Robertshaw. The 7th and final semi-final had Johnny Wiseman and Stephen Islip sharing the front row, with Chris Hawkins and Tim Harrison completing the grid. Johnny Wiseman got away well and came across, squeezing Stephen Islip towards the inside barrier. That caused Stephen to lose quite a bit of time, and Chris Hawkins made his way up into 2nd place, with Tim Harrison trying to find a way past but unable to make it stick. So Stephen Islip was down to 3rd place, with Johnny Wiseman making a bit of a break out in front. Stephen Islip though went for the cutback at the first corner to find a way past Chris Hawkins and managed to squeeze his way through at the chicane and set about his sights catching Johnny Wiseman, which he managed to do a few laps later and began challenging Johnny for the lead. He went right around the outside, but Johnny fended him off, keeping the position. The leading two were able to break away from the rest of the pack, with Stephen Islip trying everything he could to get away past Johnny. Johnny came back across to defend the inside line, stopping Stephen from getting through. Stephen went for the cutback but ended up getting hooked on Johnny's back bumper, and it became a 4-way battle for the lead, with the 4 of them covered by hardly anything. Stephen Islip dived up the inside, but Johnny covered him off and went on to win the final semi-final, with Stephen Islip just behind him, Chris Hawkins 3rd, Tim Harrison 4th. So as we look at the points from the semi-finals, Oliver Bajani has the fastest lap and will start on pole position for the grand final. He'll be joined on the front row by Zach Venn. Thomas Cardno and Michael Seaborn will both share the 2nd row, and if we look a bit further down we can see that Ben Winter was the fastest 2nd place driver, and he'll take up the 8th and final spot on the grid, while most importantly championship leader Dan Good failed to make the final, just missing out in 9th place. Thank you very much for watching, I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully we'll see you again for the grand final.
Into the night, I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through. It's true, baby, let the light